swords made out of? Like, were they actually metal?
Well, some of them were metal, there were plastic ones, but they were heavy plastic ones, and then there were shorter ones, so there were different shapes and sizes, but we didn't actually fight with the metal ones, we fought with the plastic ones, but they were heavy.
Yeah, so what we would do is we'd have the metal ones to feel the weight of the sword, and then it would swap out for a plastic one before the scene, and then we'd use those for the scene.
Okay.
Somebody hurt themselves with a sword, right?
Dean.
Dean, who plays Bedders, tell them what happened with that sword.
Well, we were doing a scene, getting ready to have a shot at the scene, and then all of a sudden he goes, guys, and we look at his foot, and it's just in his foot, in his toe.
He rested the sword on his toe.
He did.
And it went through his shoe. It was only a little cut, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it wasn't too bad.
You've got to be careful with swords. Only use plastic ones.
So what was the hardest part about playing tough characters?
Brianna, you're the toughest in the film, right?
I'm the toughest in the film. Thank you, Joe. I think in terms of playing Kay personally, I didn't want to be too strong all the time. Kay is a really tough character, and I'm really happy with the way I've portrayed her, the way Joe has written her. She's very strong and inspiring, but she also has this underlying sense of vulnerability about her and sensitivity, and I think that's really important as a female to be able to have that softness about you, but also that tough, strong character that you want young girls such as yourself to aspire to be like.
So 40 years ago, you were in a movie about King Arthur. How does it feel to come full circle and play Merlin in this?
Did you say 40 years ago?
Oh, no, of course not. I meant 20 years ago, 40.
No, I remember it very well. It was actually 1980, so that was 38 years ago.
38 years ago, yes, I'm sorry.
Acting and performing was very different for me in those days. And Excalibur was the first big movie that I had ever been in. And I didn't have a great deal to do. I think I enjoyed two things about that movie very much. One was the fighting, because we worked with the director, and of course we were all, clumsy adults, and he loved us to improvise. And so what he enjoyed was when the rehearsed portion of the fight that we had practiced had been reached, he would yell out, don't stop, keep going. So a lot of the fighting was actually real.
Oh, wow.
Somebody got an arrow in their leg when he insisted that a certain sequence continue on after we'd completed the rehearsed little bit. And I loved the dancing. Do you remember there was a dance in it? And,
I can't remember.
Well, you better watch it again.
I'm going to have to watch it again. Thank you.
What advice would you give someone if someone was bullied?
Well, I think, first of all, if your friend would stick up, well, like Alex, he sticks up for Bedders, but if you're being bullied, but you don't really have any friends, I'd tell a teacher, alert your family, speak to someone and don't suffer in silence.
I'd say that, I'm quite old, and well, that's not the answer to the question, but the bullies won't do well. It's the people that are bullied that usually do well, that get on in life, and bullies have usually got some sort of problem with their own lives, maybe. But I think that's excellent advice from Louis.
I was a bully. I've actually never spoken about this, certainly not in public before, but I was. And I came from a background where my home life wasn't particularly safe. I don't need to say anything more than that. And so the example that I was being given was a very bad one. And I look back on what I did at that time, and I'm ashamed of what I did. But I felt that in some way I had to make myself feel important. And the only way that I could do that was to control other children. And it's, I cannot make my family responsible for what I was and who I was, but it was an element, and I deeply regret it now, and it's part of one of the reasons why I've become an activist, and the whole issue of domestic violence too, when people living together are cruel to one another or harmful. It's, for me, it's a way of apologizing for what I did when I was a kid. That's shut everybody up.
Did you know anything about King Arthur before you did the movie?
Yeah, I mean, because everyone knows the sort of legend that whoever pulls the sword out of the stone becomes the next king, but I mean, it's sort of, I think it's a tale that sort of is not remembered as one of the greatest, but I think certainly now, like this film, it sort of brought it back into the perspective of things. But yeah, and like preparing for this, I read the King Arthur books and researched it.
I was always a big fan of The Sword in the Stone, the Disney cartoon. So it was cool for me to be a part of this, but because this is a different adaptation, in terms of preparing for my character, I did have to kind of separate myself from the original and put my mindset into what Joe was thinking of inventing. But it did help that I knew the original story, the Arthurian legend.
Did any part, what part in the scene wanted you to make a movie?
In the script.
They were desperate to make the movie. They were auditioning. I was deciding who would get to make the movie. That's my answer. Maybe you weren't asking me.
No, well, when I got the script and after I'd done one audition, I read the script, I realised what a great part it was and how well wrote it was, and I was...
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well written, not well written.
The time that Joe sent me the script, I was not feeling too good about things. And the reason I wasn't feeling too good about things is that two other actors who I've known all my career, which is getting on for 60 years now, and and it seemed to me that all of my friends and my colleagues were playing wizards in movies. And one of them was Sir Ian McKellen, who is a dear and very, very close friend. And there was a time when I actually said to him, "Hey, Ian, you've done so many of these movies, would you just mind suggesting my name sometime that I could maybe take over from you?" And then there's Michael Gambon, who played a wizard in the Harry Potter movies. And so that initially was my first excitement, was I'm going to get to play a wizard. Put my name on the wizard list.
For me, like Joe said, we didn't get the script during the audition process, so there wasn't necessarily a scene that made me want to do the film, because yeah, I was trying to impress, so I didn't get that opportunity to choose. But when we did finally get the script, just the whole thing in general, the tale of a boy who goes from being almost nothing to a king, I liked that story, and just the fact that it was a modern adaptation and the medieval period just dumped into the modern world. I thought that was really cool.
Hi, I'm Wes with the Kids Access Preston on an assignment from Mommy Poppins. So, in your kingdom, who would be your round table?
Well, I'll start to answer that to give you some thinking time. In my kingdom, my round table would have these people, my cast, because they're a lovely bunch. There's some who aren't here. Angus Imrie, who played young Merlin, Dean Shamu, who played Bedders. But we saw thousands of young actors from all over Britain, and some of them have had a little bit of experience in movies before, like Sir Patrick's had a little bit, Lily's had a little bit, he's in Mowgli and Alice in Wonderland and stuff. Rihanna has been in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory on the West End stage and in Bugsy Malone on the West End stage. Dean Shamu had done nothing, he'd never done anything before, and he found a piece of paper on the floor at his school for the audition. He wasn't even given the piece of paper, and he picked it up and went, hey yes, I want to go to this audition, and ended up in the movie. So our movie has a round table of very different levels of experience, very different people from different walks of life.